Recording. Right. So we're going to talk about the art of reflection, and it is really what it says. It is stopping and thinking about what you've learned, and we don't really tend to do that. We might stop and think about what it is, that's going on around us. But for this module, we have to stop and think about, well, what have we learned? What have we learned today? What did we learn from that meeting? What did we learn from the person we just met, or whatever? And capturing it and thinking about it and how it affected us. So we're going to have a chat about the perspectives of it. What is reflective learning and critical reflection, which is also called experiential, learning. And we can have a chat about how to do it, what it is, and how it works. So it is really, it involves you, absolutely about you. This whole module is about yourselves. So it really has to do with improving your performance by looking back at what happened. And it's not just listing the things that happened, it's about how you felt about it. How does it impact on you? What will you do different in the future? So it's a learning that you should be able to take with you right through your lifelong self-development within business. So it's a learning that you should be able to take with you. So reflectology, let's say reflectivity it's giving meaning to your experience. And for this module, it's about being able to write about it, write it down. So you have to actually sort of stop and think about it, because it's not as easy as it sounds. Because you will have learned, but sometimes we don't realize that we have learned. So it's really about thinking back about what happened today, what happened this week, and remembering to lodge it in your diaries, because when you do that, then you will be able to think about it next year when you're going to write about it in your final assessment. So it's about being able to capture the very important points around learning reflection. So it's asking questions, all of the questions, like the what's, the whys, the hows, and who did it, who was involved, who can I learn from, did I learn from that person? So it's all about asking all the questions around what actually happened. And when you get that, I mean, people say, oh, I've got 2,000 words to write, or 6,000 words to write. When you start thinking about this under all of your objectives, it's not a lot of words. You do eventually start running out of words, and you have to be clever about what you want to write about. So you become clever about choosing the objective that you want to write about and how you reflect on it. In the slides, which I'll put up on Moodle, I do have a YouTube video for you to watch, and it's an introduction for reflective writing. It's not huge. You can have just a quick look at it in your own time, so it'll be there. So reflective learning is about learning professionally, learning in your business, and using it to grow professionally. So it's all of the theories, and I'm going to show you some of the models that you can use in a couple of minutes. So it's all of the theories and practices that you will gather along this year. And it's about you. So it's about you take control of your learning, and two, you take responsibility for it and reflect on it. And this is Kolb's reflective learning tool, if you like. So it's about describing what happened. How did you feel about that? What's your evaluation? What was your learning? What was your analysis of it? What happened? What did you like? What did you dislike? What did you learn? What can you use together? Are there gaps in your learning? What else do you need to learn? And then what are you going to do about it? And for reflective learning, he will maintain, as will most of the theorists, maintain that it's a circle. It goes around and around, because when you learn from it, you put actions in place, then you go, okay, that was good or bad, or I like that or I didn't, and it happens again, and you go around again. So you're constantly reflecting on what it is that's happening in your learning. On the next slide here, there's quite a number of different tools that you can use. A lot of them are already listed in Moodle. And here are some more. So you can just have a look back at these. They're all reflective learning tools, and they're all reasonably similar. So it is all about going back to the Kolb's one, or to give this one as Gibbs. So what happened? What were you thinking? What were you feeling at the time? Was it good? Was it bad? What would you change? What can you make of the situation? How are you feeling about it? What can you do different? What else could you have done? And then if it rose again, what would you do? And then if you went and did the same thing, you go back around the circle. What happened? What were you thinking and feeling? So this is Gibbs. When we use Gibbs quite a lot, and we also use Kirkpatrick, which is another one that's also listed in Moodle that's pretty similar to this. So for your objective, you would go, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Well, then what happened? What were you thinking and feeling about it? So you can write your objectives in this method by using the tools. So, and I think one of your tutorials has been how to use the tool for writing effectively. So you just use the tool and think of the objective that you were trying to achieve, or the learning that you were trying to achieve, and you describe what happened and how you were feeling, and was it a good or bad experience for you. This one is Kolb, is exactly the same thing. He's only got 4 steps. So, what was it that happened? What did you reflect on? What did you observe? What was your learning? What did you learn from it? What are you going to do out of that learning? What are you trying to do out of that learning? And again, the same thing. They're all pretty similar. You go around and around on it and keep reflecting on what happened. Any questions so far? Are we okay?
Yes, so far it's straightforward, but regarding the journals or the diary, the one that you keep on a daily basis, I
Yeah.
I don't have the slightest idea how it works. I've never done one before, so what I do is do scrap.
Okay, I'm just about to talk to you about your journal. So that's perfect timing. Thank you very much. It's not necessarily daily, okay, but daily for you, it depends on how you like to learn. Some people will write them daily. Some people will write them at the end of the week. Some people will write them as a learning happens. So it's really a log of what happened, okay? It's a record of how you felt. So maybe you could use one of the tools. So describe what happened. So I went to a meeting, I was asked to do a presentation. I felt very uncomfortable, but I was very well prepared. What did I do? How did I react to it? I was very nervous. I need to go and learn how to do a better presentation. That's the sort of stuff that goes into your journal. Okay, it's not necessarily a summary, but it is. I would use one of the tools. I like Kirkpatrick or Gibbs. And I would almost write under all of those methods for recording all of those, because you won't remember what happened when you go to write finally about your learning. So your journal is not necessarily, your diary is not necessarily a daily thing. It's really up to you. If you learn daily, perfect, pop it in. If you learn, if you go to meetings, or if you go to learn something else, or you do a course, or you run a new meeting in a different style, you can do it whenever suits you. It is for your own use. It's not graded. It is for your own use, for you to remember, because our learning has been and our experience of this is people come back at the end of the year and they go, I can't remember what happened. Well, did you put it in your journal? No. So it's for you to be able to write up what happened and how you felt, because you might remember the occasion, but you might not remember the feeling. So it's about trying to capture it all. So it's a points that you found interesting, and it could be about something you read, something you discussed, some other module you were on, some activity that happened. So something that you'd like to think about or follow up or learn more about, or questions that came up. So your journal is all about your own learning. So you could have it on your desk every day and just jot down something. Oh, that's something I want to read later. So it's all about the interesting things that happened, or you looking back at what happened, or how you felt. And you would think, what were the main things I learned from it? Is it true about what I thought? Were my thoughts going into it the same as they are now once I've learned it, or once I've learned the skills? So it's all about, your thinking about things. It's actually about taking the time to stop and think, because we don't really have time to do that in our working lives. It's quite difficult to fit it in, but it's trying to get the time to do that, and therefore making sure you have sufficient information to write about when you come to write your assessments. Okay, so what can you write about in your diary? You can write about things like what happened in the day, or what happened in the week, or what happened at the meeting. Why was it different? Why was it different from any other day? Why was the meeting different from any other meeting? Why was the learning, the module, anything? Why were they all different? Was I talking to anybody that I learned anything from? Did I read anything that I learned something from? Or I felt something different, or I reacted to, or I have more questions about? So it's all about things like that. So in this slide, you'll see there are lots of questions around that. Why was I worried? Was I worried about something? Was I nervous about giving the presentation? Why was I nervous? What can I do about that? What's the next thing when I'm doing it? What can I do different? What did I accomplish? So if you think about all those things, it's all about what's actually happening, but we're capturing it and thinking about what happened and how you're going to write it down. And does it make you feel better, or does it make you feel worse? If it makes you feel worse, how you correct that for, if it's a business thing, how are you going to learn the skills to do better, or how are you going to build on your learning? Is that making sense for you now?
A lot more sense. And the last question is there a template to follow for the reflective journals?
If you have a look at in Moodle, there's templates for most things in Moodle. So have a look on the site. You should find one.
Okay.
All right. So it's about giving yourself a little bit of time to think, but think critically rather than just thinking. So reflecting back. Is that making sense?
Perfect.
Okay. So all of this is in the slides. So I'll pop the slides up, and you can have a look at them. So it's all about in there, so you can read through them. And remember to think about your feelings. Okay, was I feeling nervous? How did I feel going into the meeting? Do I feel better now? How did I feel before the presentation? How did I, am I feeling better? What did I learn? Now that I learned that, how am I feeling? So it's a little bit about being honest with yourself, being self-aware, that sort of stuff. All right. Just about setting objectives for yourself. I don't know if you had a look at your objectives yet, but really what we're asking you to do is to set objectives that you're going to be able to write about. So they could come from KPIs, that are key performance indicators, that you've already agreed in work. So you can use them. You don't have to set extra ones. So if you already have some objectives that you're trying to achieve, why would you not use them for this? So they come from 3 different areas. You're going to be asked to look at 3 different areas. Personal. So what what objectives have you got in personal? You'd be asked to write about 3 or 4 of them, but you at the very end will be choosing 2 from each area that will be the best for you to write about, for your best learning. If you only choose 2 now, one might not happen. You might have not enough to write about. So think about them carefully. So it's personal, work, and educational. We've already set your educational one for you, and I'll show you that now, 1 second. So how are you going to achieve them? So don't set yourself an objective that's too hard to achieve, or you can't write about, or it's 3 years down the road or 2 years down the road, and by the time you get to the end of this year, you haven't even looked at it. So make them, they don't have to be hard, they don't have to be difficult. They can be quite simple. It could be simply something like you want to learn a course, you want to do something different, you want, as we said earlier, you want to stand up and make presentations. And we've had some people who want to change processes within their business. Or here on this slide, again, these slides will be up on Moodle, so you'll be able to see them. Here's some suggestions. So personal ones could be improve your communication skills, written and verbal. Last year, we had somebody who wanted to improve the communications within her department. And she came up with a plan about how she was going to get her team together, and she looked up leadership styles and all this sort of stuff. So she improved her communication skills. It could be anything like time management, work better as a team member, increasing your self-confidence, showing initiative in work. So things that you can use in work, you can prove, you can show us. So you can show us evidence of that. You've moved from doing this to this. You're now a team leader. It could be anything to do with yourself within your business. And then your business one could be improve your processes, improve your marketing, design marketing practices, increase customer traffic, build a development plan. It's a bit more businessy rather than you want to be more self-confident. You're going to understand, the examples of the work ones would be more business orientated. So developing plans, developing business, giving presentations, something like that. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, and finally, the work one, the educational one, we've already given you one. So it's, you know, starting this course basically, and the objective would be finishing the course. So there's 4 more in there. So it could be relating, you know, your theories that you're learning through all your modules to business practice, or analyzing a business environment within the context of your project. So you're going to do a project. So how do you link that to your educational learning? All right. So there are only examples, Chanel. So there are things that you can think about, but you don't have to use these. You can use your own ones. So it's really about thinking about what's relevant within your business. What's relevant for you to write about? What are the things that you can write about? All right. So that's quite important. So if you have an objective that you don't think you're going to be able to write about, well, then I would possibly suggest that you think of a different one, something you're going to be able to find literature on, because you're going to have to measure them against, you're going to have to show us critical analysis, which means you're going to have to look at what's happening, what's your objective, what's happening in your business, and how can I reflect that back to the theories and the practices. And that's critical reflection. So what am I trying to do? What happened? Well, what are the books saying? Has it happened the same way as the theory, or is it different? That's your critical reflection. So you're trying to always link everything that you're doing, all of your objectives, back to your learning. Okay?
Yes.
Right. So that's really, I'm just going to